So I am going to do a little project, and what my plan is I'm going to go through two different programming languages. And before I get started, I want to kind of explain a few things. And these are all my opinion. Everybody's got a different opinion about programming languages, so you can take it with a grain of salt. But I've been programming for almost 30 years, and I've used a number of different programming languages. I started out with some database stuff. Um, I've done C, I've done C++ a little bit, a lot of PHP, um, very little Python. I've done a little bit of Java. Um, Pascal is probably was the first big programming language that I worked with, and so I've had some experience with a number of different things, and along the way, I'm constantly researching. Is there a better way to do what we're trying to do? Now we write primarily database applications, and so we're focused mainly on getting access to that data, and managing the data and providing a front end to the user to be able to insert, look up, all that kind of stuff, view. So, and along the way, we've been we've written a few microservices, and then we've got some Go applications that we're using. So the problem always comes down to a programming language is, what are you trying to actually accomplish? Are you trying to get a programming language or a program developed that you can easily maintain and you're not that concerned with how fast it runs? Or are you trying to write an application that runs really, really fast and you're willing to give up some of the simplicity just for the ability to have it run faster than other applications on the market? Now, in the early days, back in the 90s, when I first started doing this, I was programming in Delphi. And at the time, your big two was Delphi versus C++. And C was there as well. But it was mainly between Delphi or Pascal and C++. And at the time, the Delphi programming environment was just far superior than anything you could have ever dreamed up. And even today, with all the advancements that we've had in programming languages, I would still put the environment that existed in Delphi is still way ahead of what everybody else has accomplished. I mean, it's kind of embarrassing to look back on the way we used to do programming and the way that it works today. I mean, we've actually backed up. So I'm kind of sad that Borland is not really producing the Delphi environment like they used to, because it really was a top-notch environment. But along the way, we've just had an explosion of programming languages. And so, in today's environment, you have things like Python, you still have C and C++, you've got Rust, you've got Go, Ruby. I mean, there's just tons of different environments, Java, that you can program in. And so it really comes down to, what exactly are we trying to accomplish and what are we going to do? What are we going to use? Because once you start investing the time and the resources in developing an application, it's hard to move away from that. Now, one of the nice things about running your own company is that I can move away from things whenever I want to. It's money, it's time. But if there's a big advantage of moving from one platform to another, I'm more than willing to take up the sword and start charging in that direction. So at the moment, we're kind of in that mode where we've been programming a lot in PHP. We've got a really solid, good performing web application that we've developed for a number of different industries. And so the question now is where do we go next? What is the next big jump? And so part of that search is trying to find an environment that you can actually work in. Now, I was running down the road of Go, which is a Google developed language, and it is no secret that I am not a proponent of socialism or anything else. And so this whole social justice movement that has taken over the world is just a leap too far for me. And so one of the problems that I have with the entire Go community is they're a bunch of pompous asses. Not all of them. I'm not saying all of the programmers over in using Go, definitely not using Go, but the ones that are developing the programming environment, you have to get help from these people, and you have to be able to communicate with them. And so the entire Go community is extremely biased towards social justice. I mean, they even have a Black Lives Matter across their main webpage, asking you to donate to a socialist organization. So, and in my opinion, a terrorist organization. So they kind of, I tried to talk to them about it, but they don't want to have a conversation. They're right, I'm wrong, and therefore in fact, they pretty much told me that they hope they never meet me, and that's just not an environment that I want to be in. And so the point here is that in addition to trying to pick a good programming language, you also have to find a good group of people to work with. If you can't find people that you can communicate with, and in my opinion, none of the programming languages that are out there that we're all using, none of them should be political. If the individual people in the in the group want to be political, then we have free speech in this country, in the United States, and I'm all for it. I mean, if you want to have a political view, have your view, but don't voice it in the middle of a bunch of programmers that are trying to learn to program. And to me, that's something that Go, openly did, and they refused to back off of, because they're so much better people than all the rest of us. So when you're going through and researching, try to find an environment that you are happy in, that you can deal with the people, because there are some environments that you get in and the people are just rude. They're hard to talk to. If you have problems, it's hard to get help from them. And so you kind of want to, do a little bit of research on the social side first to make sure that you can deal with the environment. Now, I will say, at this point, and this video series is actually going to be a journey in Rust. I've never programmed in Rust. I have no idea what I'm doing in that environment. I do know what I want to accomplish at this point, so I've got some guiding rules that I want to kind of follow through, but I don't have a lot vested in I don't have anything vested in Rust. And at the same time, I have read, I don't know who he is, but I've read on the, one of the Rust pages, the call for, social justice over there, and doing away with GitHub because they are supporting genocide. And, again, these are viewpoints that are completely brain dead. There's no genocide going on in the United States. I don't know what these idiots are even talking about, but I'm going to give it a go, because at the moment it looks like Rust, as far as the main group of people, they haven't jumped into any political stance, and hopefully they won't, because I don't want to live in an environment that's toxic, and I got to listen to a bunch of crazy people, and if I disagree with them, they just kill my thread, which is exactly what Go is doing at the moment. So find your environment, find what it is you're trying to accomplish, and then you're going to have to invest a lot of time in doing it. Now, I'm shooting for Rust at the moment for a number of reasons, and I want to kind of cover this up front. So I'm doing an educational series that I'm working with my son on for his homeschooling, and also kind of hoping at some point it becomes open source on educateus.us, so that kids can learn how to program and learn how to do things instead of getting out of high school knowing how to do nothing. So in that course, I'm actually choosing to go with Python because, in my opinion, it's better to use something that kids are, especially in the school era, are easier to pick up, so, something that they're more apt to be able to understand and look at and understand what they're looking at. Rust, on the other hand, is much faster than Python, but it is a much more complicated language. So it's something that you should pick up later if you actually get into a situation where you think that you need the speed and the complexity that comes along with Rust. Same thing with C and C++. There's a lot of people that like to say that, Rust is no good and C++ is no good and C is no good. The fact is, all these languages exist. They're all here for a reason. They haven't been replaced because of reasons. And so to try to say that one environment is better than another environment is kind of foolish. Now, there are things that are lacking in some of the other environments, and so those are things that you need to research and understand before you choose something. And in this course, I'm going to try to, cover some of that so that we know what we're getting into. But I'll give you a good example with Python. So Python is huge in the educational world. College kids and professors, they all, like to jump into Python to develop their artificial intelligence apps and, the driving apps. Tesla chose Python to do their driving app that they have to autonomously drive the car. And so it's a really quick language to get up and running in. It's a really quick language to learn. There are tons and tons of libraries that you can use to build up the application that you're looking for so that you don't have to hard code every single thing that you're doing. And so it's a very powerful language to learn in. But the problem that you're going to run into at some point, depending on where you go, is, for example, Tesla chose Python to do their artificial driving or their autonomous driving. And they are now at a point where they can go no farther with Python because it's too slow. It takes up a lot of memory. It isn't a compiled language, so the debugging on it is not as good as it is with something like Rust or C++. And so there's a lot of downsides. So once you get up to a certain point in that language, you're going to run into limitations. So the question needs to be, are we researching? Are we trying to do something quickly and to test it? Or are we trying to produce a finished product that needs to be small, fast, and secure? If that's what you're trying to do, then Python's probably not the application that you want to do. But if you are doing the research side of things, which, as I said in the kids educational thing that I'm working on, that's what I'm trying to accomplish. And so we're going to be learning Python in that course. But in this particular course, I'm actually looking for a language to increase some of the speed and functionality that we have in our business application that we produce. And so I've been bouncing back and forth between C, C++, Rust, and Go. Go, political side aside, Go is not a bad language. It's actually it's a pretty impressive language, but from what I have found out doing some research and stuff is, at some point you're going to kind of break the boundary of Go as well, because it was meant to write microservices and things like that. But it really, you're going to run into some areas that, you're going to have problems. But Go, you can develop applications faster or server applications faster in Go than you can in Rust, for example, or C++, because it is a much simpler language. Go is kind of like taking C, which is the simplest language that you could ever learn, taking C and then adding some things to it that C was missing. So the Golang is not a bad environment. It's and in some cases it may be fine to go down that route. So, and depending on your personality, you may fit right in with the crowd over there and have no issues. But it to me, for what I'm trying to accomplish, I'm a little bit worried about some of the boundary areas that we may get into that could potentially be a problem. And so it kind of pushed me back to C. I used to program in C, and I love the C programming language. It's simplistic, it's very straightforward, but you're manually managing all of your memory. And so some of the problems that you have is that if you forget to do something, then you introduce bugs and memory leaks and possible hacking potentials due to the fact that you made one innocent little mistake, because there is no real memory management in the C programming environment. It's all done by the programmer. So it gives you the power to do literally anything you want to do, but you do have to worry about some of the things that you may run into where you forgot to destroy a memory element, or you forgot to put a bound on something, and now you've opened up access to to memory that shouldn't have been accessed. So I don't really want to get into that part of the world. The other problem with C is that depending on what you're trying to do, it's awesome for writing operating systems, for writing low-level microcontroller operating systems. Not Android, the Arduino projects. They're all written in C to manage all of the hardware and stuff that you would use in, say, building up a robot or something like that. So the C programming language is extremely powerful. But again, you've really got to pay attention to what you're doing. C++ comes along and takes the simplicity of C and flips it on its head, and can get so complicated that even the people that use it every day can run across things that they don't understand what's happening. But it's a really powerful, fast environment. It's just, again, you're managing all of your memory, you're managing all of the stuff that's going on. You've really just kind of brought this object-oriented programming into C. So it's kind of C on steroids, but it does so much stuff that it can get daunting to try to manage a really big project. So I was looking for something that has the speed and power of C and C++, but that helped me with a little bit with the memory and some of the other things that go along with it. And I've kind of run across Rust. And so what we're going to be doing in this process is I'm going to be walking through what I'm doing to actually develop a real application in Rust and see how it goes. What is, what am I having the problems with? What books am I reading? Where am I finding the information? So we're going to kind of step through this from a completely idiot standpoint, from the Rust standpoint. I have no idea how this environment works. I've got a little bit of an idea because in the last week I've been reading one of the Rust books, but I'm really kind of, I'm not an expert in this environment at all. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see where we end up in a month, and can we write the application that we're trying to write in a way that we can manage it and understand what the code's doing. And hopefully, it'll help some of you that may be interested in taking a look at the same thing. We may get to a point where we decide Rust just isn't the thing to do. And if so, I'll try to explain my logic, which may be a little odd for some of you, but it is what it is. I've been running a company for a number of years, and I've got a good bit of experience with developing applications, and I hope that I can take that knowledge and apply it to Rust and actually come up with something that improves the application that we actually work on and sell every day. So hopefully you'll join with me. In the next video, we're going to walk through how I actually set up this environment and some of the little things that I've learned in the very beginning. And then we're going to actually start jumping into, laying out some code and understanding exactly what's going on in that code as we go along through this project.